So the T-Wolves have Karl-Anthony Towns for 5 years, as of when this season begins, which means every year counts. You might say, oh, well, that's a long time. But before you know it, the guy could have like 2 years left on his deal and you're just a mediocre team. Not saying that's going to happen with the Wolves, but it could. So if they don't want that to happen, it would help if they take a jump this season. Now, will that occur? I don't know. I mean, I think there's a chance Karl-Anthony Towns is either the leading scorer this season or number 2 if Harden shoots 25 shots a game again. But there's reason to believe Westbrook will take some of his shots away, and there's no Jimmy Butler here to take shots from Towns, so that plus they have the younger coach now who I think finally understands how good Towns is, because Thibodeau, like, he knew how good Towns was, but he wasn't going to have him shooting all the time. So I could really see Towns just averaging like over 30 a game this season, and I mean, him by himself can be enough for the Wolves to be one of the better offensive teams in the league. I mean, his playmaking is not to Jokic levels, but I think it can be good enough to just create shots for other guys. I mean, he got up to like 3.5 assists per game this previous season, and that doesn't jump out at you, but I don't know, just call it a gut feeling. I think the amount of assists that Towns has up to this point in his career, even with all the Jimmy Butler stuff going on and like the talent around him not always being the best, I do think we could see his passing make a jump this year. So you have this guy who can basically do everything offensively. That could be enough to get the Wolves to, I don't know, 10th in offense or something, maybe even higher if somebody else really pops. But looking at the roster, I mean, look, I made a whole video about why I think we're going to see some point guard Andrew Wiggins. If for no other reason than it'll just force him to be awake the entire game, you know? But does that mean I think it's actually going to go well? I mean, it's Andrew Wiggins. Covington, good 3-point shooter, but he's not really going to create. Teague is Teague. I mean, unless Culver just really sets the world on fire in his rookie season, I don't think there's another real offensive option for this team, so I don't think these guys can be like a top 5 offense, but again, Towns is really that good to where I could see them being in the top half of the NBA just kind of on him alone. Defensively is another thing. I mean, we hope if Covington is healthy and Towns can continue his defense, at least from when Jimmy Butler was traded. I didn't watch the Wolves like that day in and day out, so for all I know, his defense dipped back down, but I know it was a little better, at least when they initially got rid of Jimmy. So if we could see that from Towns, then maybe. I mean, and at that point, we're basically asking Karl-Anthony Towns to be a top 10 player. I mean, if he's going to average 30 and have these guys in the top half of defense, then, I mean, that's an all-NBA something case, potentially even an argument with Jokic and Embiid. Is Towns going to be that good in his 5th season? I don't know. I mean, I could still picture him being like the 12th best player in the league or something. I don't know. Maybe that jump is finally coming. Maybe it isn't. Don't know. But I think the point is, if that jump is not going to come from Towns, then I just don't really know how this team is going to push 40-something wins and make a real case for the playoffs in the West. I mean, if I'm looking at the Western Conference right now, if you force me to pick an 8th seed, I immediately think of the Spurs, and even then I could picture the Spurs winning 50 games. I mean, they won 48 a year ago, they're getting DeJounte back, stuff like that, so it's just going to be really difficult to get in there in the Western Conference. I mean, like, the Wolves might be a good team next season. Could they win 41 games? Yeah, I mean, it's 5 more than this previous season. Like, I don't think it's impossible to expect that, but it's just tough out there, man. Now, there's other things. I mean, maybe a Kogi really steps up as a ball handler or shooter. His energy and his defense are definitely some things to be excited about. And, I mean, there is a bit of a wing rotation between Covington, Culver, Jake Layman, Okogie I mentioned, Wiggins, if he's not going to be terrible. These things can kind of matter. Like, there is some switchability, some versatility of small ball fours and spacing next to Towns, assuming they're not going to play Gorgie Dang next to Towns, which I think is a safe bet. So there's some stuff here. I do think the Wolves, I mean, they know that they need to make a move. It's why they tried to get D'Angelo Russell and all that. So if somebody becomes available, which, I mean, maybe it's Bradley Beal, I don't know who it'd be. Make your own pick on that one. But could the Wolves be in a position to make a move like that? I mean, even then it's a little tricky. It'd have to be a ballsy move because they'd probably have to give up a pick. And there's two ways you can go there. It's, well, you're already in the mid-tier and you got Towns, trade at least one pick. But then the counter to that is, do you really want to be trading picks when you could be a lottery team? Now, the easy answer is we'll just put a lottery protection on, I don't know, this year's pick, next year's pick, whatever. But the thing with that is, what's a lottery protected pick going to get you? Could get you a damn good player, might not. It'll depend on a bunch of different things. They do have some trade assets, like Teague's $19 million expiring. That's pretty good. I mean, an expiring and a pick can definitely get you something. So we'll see if the Wolves want to bark up that tree. I just think the team needs a little more pop, you know? Because it's like, I don't think there's reason to believe they'll be terrible on either side of the floor. But again, to break into the playoffs in the West, you either have to be great on either offense or defense or like very good on both. And I mean, I'll just be repeating myself, but talent around Towns and defenders around Covington, there you go. So we'll see what they do. Hopefully we can see Karl-Anthony Towns in the playoffs.